Recently, I left Melbourne to do a bit of traveling and to go visit family, and because I can't stay because of, visas. But a couple of speakers have come down to Melbourne, and Australia in general, to do a bit of a tour, and that is Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux. And hilarity has ensued. The people there are very regressive, very leftist, far leftist, like to the point of Antifa leftist. And they are clueless and naive in general. Australia has the luxury, and New Zealand, by the way, of having a series of problems that they face that are fundamentally different, less severe, by the way, than almost everywhere else in the world, especially when it comes to mass immigration, urban decay, rioting, rape, criminality, etc., the disintegration of their home. Now, don't get me wrong, they have some problems, and those problems are growing. Ironically, it's growing as the percentage of Muslims grow in the country. But you get Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux, and I've watched some of their speeches, and was impressed with what they were saying. I mean, they're smart. They're doing a smart thing. They're coming in to talk about things that they are sure about. They could talk about a whole host of things, but they pick 3 or 4 main areas of interest that they're like, we're rock solid on this, and it's important, and these are the messages we're going to convey. And I have been impressed by them. What they're talking about is primarily multiculturalism and immigration. And before everybody starts freaking out going, oh, but where are they on the political spectrum? I mean, who the hell? This is a lazy way of thinking. Life is more complicated than which of these 2 groups do you belong to, the left or the right. We're talking about 2 Canadians, but look, they're going to Australia, and if you talk about immigration in Australia, that's one issue, but Stefan Molyneux and Lauren Southern have seen the outcome of multiculturalism gone wrong, of mass immigration gone wrong, of the clash of civilizations where you have Muslims pouring in and it doesn't go well for people. They've seen that in Europe. They've been there. They address it. This is on their mind. The people in Australia, they live kind of a charmed life out on a distant island. And so you have young middle-class white people with guilt pretending that they're fighting against Nazis. I mean, to call Lauren Southern, who seems like a very just bright, delightful, attractive, talented woman, to describe her as some sort of tyrant, or to even be scared of her. Who is scared of this? I mean, she is doing her thing, and if you have an issue with something she said, make a point. Or as Stefan Molyneux says, have an argument. Not an argument. But can we please look at some of the reaction that Antifa and the left gave them? I mean, this is embarrassing.
You're supporting genocide. Hey, Lauren, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Hey, Lauren, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide.
Hey, Lauren, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Why would you say that when she clearly is not supporting genocide? In what way do you think that's a good thing to say? How sad and pointless is it for you to make something up and attribute it to them?
Hey, Lauren, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Hey, Lauren, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. Fuck off, Nazis. Fuck off. Fuck off, Nazis. Fuck off.
Fuck off, Nazis. Oh, look at them. Oh, let's just make those words as severe as possible. Genocide, Nazis. It's really obnoxious to a level I'm not prepared to cope with.
Safety gate! No Nazis! Never again! No Nazis! Never again!
No Nazis ever again. I mean, if you ask these people, hey, are you Nazis? They say no. Okay, well now somebody's wrong. Okay, let's first establish that. Someone's wrong. They say they're not Nazis, obviously. Antifa says they are Nazis. Okay, well then who's wrong? Can we determine this in any way? Well, they're not literally Nazis. I mean, they're not Germans from the 1940s, but they resemble Nazis because they have similar policies. Like what? They want to gas the Jews. No, they don't. Okay, well, they're against people. They make them the otherize people. And they say that a group of people is bad based off something like religion, which is, pointless. Yeah, but it's good to be against things. I mean, do you think that being against things is wrong just in and of itself? There are real reasons. If you would listen to one of their speeches instead of trying to drown them out, you might learn something. And their big end game is to tweak and revise their immigration policies. It's not to set up concentration camps.
No Nazis! Never again! bus! Stay on the Nazi bus! Stay on the Nazi bus! Stay on the Nazi bus! Stop the bus! You're gonna fucking run us over! Stop the fucking bus! Stop the bus! Stop the fucking bus, you animal! You fucking monster! Stop the bus!
What a bitch. Stop the bus! You're gonna run us over! Well, you're standing behind the bus. God, shave that compensation beard, you pussy.
Stop the fucking bus! Surround the Nazi 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 bus!
Is that not just so humiliating? Imagine if you're the parents of one of those people. Well, refugees would probably love you too. It's a shame you weren't in Cologne a couple years ago. You would have gotten a lot of love. By the way, nice hair color. Is that your natural hair color? Obviously it is not, as it is not a natural color. It looks like you dumped your head into a vat of margarine and then had a train of camels piss on your head.
I love refugees! I love refugees! I love Muslims!
Why would you love refugees? What's the point of that? Do you love them because they're refugees? Is there a spectrum of your love of the refugees? I love refugees! Virtue, virtue! I mean, how about the Islamist refugees? I mean, do you care? How about the pedophile refugees? The rapist refugees? Do you love them? Why don't you go do something about it instead of yelling about it? If you love refugees so much, give all of your excess money that you're spending on hair product and give it to one of these people you claim to love.
I love refugees! I love refugees! I love Muslims!
I love Muslims, bring Muslims. No, we got problems. And these are the statements from a place that has a very small percentage of Muslims in it. You know, you can dick around. Oh yeah, we got a few Muslims. There's a 1%, 2%, 3%. Yeah, we're so noble. We're so gracious. We love all peoples. Yeah, call me when you have 10% Muslims. Call me at 6% Muslims. See how you're doing. It's funny, why don't you live in the Muslim area? Why don't you live among the refugees if they're so great and you love them so much? I want them, I love them. It's a bit of a disconnect. You don't live in that area. You live with the hippies and the burners, the whites and the Asians. You're not hanging out with the Muslims and the refugees. Why not? I detect inconsistency. And then, yeah, Stefan Molyneux gave a speech, which was interesting. He decided to talk about the Aboriginals and the history of Europeans in Australia. And the crowd was sort of riveted, but also uncomfortable. But he explained that collective guilt is retarded, and that people who try to make you feel ashamed over stuff you didn't do, first of all, is not a legitimate thing to do. And the reason they're doing it is to get money from you eventually. It's a shakedown. On top of that, what whites did in Australia was not as malicious and terrible as it's made out to be. He also pointed out that what the Aboriginals were doing before we arrived was both A, primitive, and B, awful. They had a series of horrible practices that were brutal in nature, and they were not the noble savage trope that we so often hear about. He then proclaimed that the West is the best, unequivocally, and he explained why. Because of our pursuit of the idea of truth. Because we have a system in place where we encourage free market, free thought, free expression, where we don't claim to know everything, but that we constantly seek to get better and progress through discussion, through debate. I mean, some of these things go without saying. It should be quite obvious. Aside from a couple moments in the speech where I could have taken a little issue with some of the things he was saying, the main message is pretty clear. And one thing, just to end here, I think we have to resist the urge to be tribal. It's really buried within our bones. It takes a little more energy, it's a little trickier, to create your own stance. So it's not just you are part of which team. You're a Blood, you're a Crip, you're on the left, you're on the right. No. How do you justify your position on immigration? Why are you pro or anti whatever? You defend it. Don't just be like, well, I'm on the left or I'm on the right, so just, yeah, whatever they say. No. That's too easy. So on the issue of immigration, on the issue of do you have legitimate reasons to be concerned about an influx of Muslims into your country, there are two groups. It's not left-right. It's the people that don't view that as a problem and the people that do. Those are the two sides. And there's a spectrum, obviously. And if you don't think that an influx of Muslims is a problem, there's only a few reasons why that's the case. Number one, you are being willfully ignorant. Number two, you don't live in an area where there are Muslims or any significant percentage of Muslims. So you don't know. So because you don't know, you don't care, and so you minimize it as a problem. Or number three, you are a self-serving cunt who wants to proclaim how great you are. I love Muslims. I love refugees. You're just a neo-hippie who's bleating on about how awesome and empathetic you are. None of those people actually care about the problem. None of those people want to recognize that problems exist. This is the attitude that the German police took and continue to take in Germany when Muslims act up and kill people or rape people or assault them by the hundreds and thousands. And this is the general attitude, disproportionate attitude in Australia, especially Melbourne. I might take a look at one of Lauren Southern's speeches down there, but overall, I saw a couple things and I was impressed with what they said and how they carry themselves. What they're saying is important, it is controversial, and will be considered unpopular by the weak losers of this world, which makes it even more important. Well done.